everyone, welcome to a new episode of To Costa Rica Real Talk, To Costa Rica Real Estate's podcast on all things real estate and Costa Rica. And today we're joined once again by Alex Bejarano, our resident Tamarindo expert here in the area. How are you doing today, Alex?
I'm doing great, Alonso. Thank you for having me once again.
And it's great to actually finally get to record you like head-to-head, one-on-one on your home turf, because the last times we were like via Zoom and you came to San Jose, so it's great actually being here and seeing all the wonderful areas that you sell to our clients.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for making the effort to come here.
Oh, it's been a great experience. So
Cool.
And well, today I wanted to talk with you about perhaps a more meta subject on the Guanacaste and Tamarindo specifically area, and that's about like design and architecture. Perhaps focus on a niche we haven't really like delved into in the podcast. And from what I've heard, you're like very versed in the subject. Yeah. So first of all, I wanted to ask you about the idea of like the beach home in Costa Rica, because like in the 90s and early 2000s, like the beach homes were very much like a synonym with the kind of like the hacienda-style, like the big townhomes with like the central like terrace and like the Spanish colonial / Mexican style. Yeah. How was that like first establishment of that style? Why do you think that was like a big hit in the early 2000s?
Well, I think that in terms of the actual style of homes here in this area, I wouldn't say it was so much that it was because it was the beach location. I think it has to do more with the cultural aspect of where we live. Guanacaste is the cattle land; it's the farmland of our country, and the hacienda homes are just what defines this culture here. It's beautiful to go into the open fields or certain farms and be able to see an hacienda in the middle of a field with the cattle all around it. And I think that it was just a natural transition as people started building homes closer to the beach, or the beach town started to develop, being that that's just the normal style, that homes were being built with that design and that architectural style. I think it was just an easy way of starting to build homes with the type of material and type of design that already existed. Eventually, obviously, that started to evolve. But in the beginning of the development of the area, obviously we have the main project that decided to use that style as their whole idea with what they were doing, and which was Hacienda Pinilla. So I would say that, for instance, the project known as Hacienda Pinilla decided to embrace the local flair of architectural design and make sure to keep that as what each of their homes would be eventually designed as. Even the very well-known architects of the country that were hired to do some of those projects, they made sure to keep that essence. And even though they're very capable of doing all types of different architectural styles, they were asked to maintain the colonial style with these particular properties. But that was obviously their own, that was always their focus, because they wanted to make sure to keep the hacienda style for that particular community. If we're talking about the rest of the area and different communities and different beach towns, I think, again, just in general, it's what people were using and to build. It was what was available, just your normal, clay tile roofs with your normal, concrete, building, and not much to it other than that. But yeah, as I said, that obviously started to evolve.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to think about like the spaciousness of like the hacienda style home. Also, if you're thinking of like rental investments, makes great sense because of that, from what I can get, and you can expand on that, on the distribution of the homes, right?
Yes. So, I mean, and honestly, I think that whenever I have clients that are asking about the more, hacienda-style properties, I've always said that for me, it's a classic timeless design, and it was always meant to be functional. They're homes that are built with the natural elements in mind, making sure that the cross ventilation is there, making sure that The spaces are there both internally and externally. So yeah, I mean, it's very functional and depending on, how it's built or how they're built. And obviously they're built to last. Homes that have that style have always been built with very good material. And I mean, that's why when you drive through a farm here in Guanacaste, you'll see a 150-year-old hacienda-style home that's still intact. And so in terms of, using them as vacation rentals or whatnot, I think they do offer a unique style for a tourist to be able to stay in a home like that, to have a different, design to what a tourist would be maybe accustomed to stay like in a hotel or something, to have more of that hacienda-style feel to their property is very nice. But yeah, I think that in its functionality, it does work well for certain designs. Yeah.
And when the advent of like the contemporary minimalist like kind of like architecture style became like the trend in like the late 2000s or early 2010s,
Yeah.
how was that adoption here in Tamarindo? Because as you mentioned, like historically, like the luxury developments here had a way of how they looked and how they felt. And how was that like initial transition period? Was there like any resistance in terms of like demographics or like the owners?
Well, I guess what comes to mind is like if you think of the Diria Hotel in Tamarindo, it's the first hotel in Tamarindo. It's still there. When you drive in, it's the first thing you see on the main strip. And that hotel is a colonial style hotel. But when you started seeing the transition into more modern, sleek, clean, minimalist design, I think that it was well embraced as well. I believe that the beach lends itself for those clean designs. We're currently, doing this podcast in a wonderful community called Las Ventanas, and this is in Playa Grande. And this community in particular, they actually focused on making sure that all of their homes were modern tropical. I think it's a design that it also goes really well with our area. The natural elements with the teak wood and the stone and everything as it comes together, it just blends really well into nature. And I believe that having that transition, as you've seen in many projects now, has established a new style that a lot of people, including myself, absolutely love, because I think that you see that the architectural design is a little bit more creative. There are spaces that you see where the ceilings are so open and high, and then you see the way that the integration of the natural light with the home, with large windows and the views and all of that. So really depending on where you are, like if you're looking at Tamarindo and certain buildings that are more modern and contemporary, the difference I would say is that if you look at the spectrum between the more classic colonial style to what modern tropical is, you do have that contemporary style as well. Now, a lot of people, because contemporary has existed from, the 80s onwards, and I think that the contemporary style can be a little too cold at times for certain people, but it still has been, it still has had its success with certain projects. One that comes to mind is Pacific Park, for instance, in Tamarindo, which is strictly contemporary design, very clean and very, minimalist. But again, I think where the modern tropical has come in is that it integrates the coziness of the natural elements with the woods and all that, and it still gives you that modern feel, but gives you the nature and the natural elements of the area, which is really living at the beach. It's what you kind of want to feel inside of your home.
Yeah, I was just going to follow up on the idea of modern tropical, because as you mentioned, it like takes the spaciousness and the sleekness of like the contemporary, quote unquote contemporary homes, minimalism, and establish like a sense of grounding, I guess, on the place, like the materials, as you mentioned, the textures, like the warmth. So would you say it's become kind of like a staple for the area in kind of some kind of developments?
I believe that that's the case. If you think about what's happening, let's go back to Hacienda Pinilla, for instance. The trend there has become the modern tropical within the kind of colonial facade, because that project still does not allow homes to be 100% like fully modern. But the way they've gotten around that is integrating that modern tropical feel to a lot of the newer homes that are being built there. And at least from our experience, it's what's selling the most. When you see these newer homes that have a facade that integrates like beautiful teak wood throughout the ceilings, or the doors and open windows, stuff like that, I think that it is something that is becoming more of the standard now. And a lot of projects are embracing that, and a lot of clients are looking for that.
And from what I've seen, also like modern tropical also lends to kind of like an interesting mashes of styles. For example, I've seen like a couple of modern tropical listings on our site that incorporate textures so naturally from the area, but also like the Balinese styles and like different Pacific kind of like leanings. So to me, that's also very interesting because it kind of opens up the field in a way.
Yeah, it does. I mean, when you talk about a whole different tropical design, like talking about Balinese styles, a lot of the homes that are being built with those designs are clearly architectural styles that aren't native to our country or our area, yet because they're still tropical, they still fit very well. We have a particular home in Avellanas that has been built very Balinese, and every time we show it, the clients are just in love with it because they think, well, I'm in Costa Rica, it's a tropical country, and that's what they're looking for, a tropical style home. So it definitely, you see that trend as well a little bit, where some people are doing more of the strictly tropical design of a home and not necessarily trying to make it so modern. That home in particular is so tropical to the point where the living area is just a thatched roof. And so there are some styles of homes that do lend themselves very well for that feel, but I'd say they'd have to be, very close to the beach. It would be very strange to see a home like that, like in the mountains or something, so.
And I want to ask you also about that, particularly the kind of opportunity that the recent boom in Tamarindo in terms of like the developments themselves and like the openness of the market to like architectures and big name like name brand firms and artists to come here and like experiment with the area, like incorporate their own style. How much is like the signature part of like the selling process?
In terms of these architectural,
of the architects themselves and their vision. How often does that integrate into the selling process of like a home?
Well, many times having the right architect helps the sale of a home. Most definitely, I can speak for instance, Benjamin Sachs and Sachs Studio. They're building a home right down the road from where we're sitting right now. It's funny because it's not for sale, but every time we drive by and people hear that they're building that home, it's already something that draws attention, because a lot of architects in our country have done phenomenally well with their designs, their styles, their track record, and each one of them have their particular way of designing a home. So if there is an architect that has designed the home, it's most of the time the buyers will be drawn to that architect, just like, someone will be drawn to an artist and they know that they have that style that's very unique to what they do. So I think that definitely does help when it comes to presenting a home that might be coming to market but is being designed by one of these famous architects.
And to me, that's also interesting when you consider, like, as you were mentioning earlier, like the cohesiveness of developments. We've seen like how Pinilla sub-communities have kind of like diverged from the purely colonial style, but also would you see like within sub-communities, like still there's like a aesthetic cohesion throughout. And I guess like, is that very important to some clients to know that the home they're building will be like on par in terms of like style? There'll be like a sense of place within where they live.
I think that's definitely a major plus for a lot of clients. Like, for instance, where we are right now, because the architectural committee will only approve a modern tropical designed home, it gives a buyer sort of a peace of mind that they're not going to have a stark contrast between their house and their neighbor's house. I believe that many gated communities are always making sure to take care of their cohesiveness of their design of their homes. But in terms of homes in general, like even in Playa Grande, if you left this gated community and you start driving into the town where there is no, restrictions whatsoever to what design you want to do for your house, it still leans towards the modern tropical. So the good thing for me, I believe, is that the way I see that is that it gives the whole community as a whole a certain design, a certain style, which also translates to commercial centers that look that way, or different areas that are being developed, or restaurants that try and maintain that style. I think that if we went to Avellanas, for instance, where we're talking about more of the tropical design of certain homes, the commercial centers there are very tropical in their design, and you have the thatched roofs, or there's a new one that they just commercial center that was just completed that's more modern tropical. So it outside of a community, it still feels like in the consensus for everyone is to still kind of follow that design.
Yeah, that's very interesting when you take into consideration, as you mentioned, like communal spaces and like parts extension of the community. Because at least for someone that lives in San Jose, that's not usually the case. There's like barely like a districtal like sense of cohesion or like a style, signature style. So seeing it here, like even like in Automercado in Tamarindo, you see it and it has like a very particular like contemporary the tropical style.
Yeah.
You go to a food court and it has like this aura and sense of place. So it's very like it doesn't only applies to where you live, but it's like a constant like atmosphere throughout your existence here.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think it's similar to whenever you travel to Hawaii, for instance. In Hawaii, you'll feel that throughout the towns wherever you are. Yeah, whether like you land at the airport and the style of the architectural style of the airport is the same as you would see as you start driving into the different towns. I think that that's sort of what's happening here in our area, and it's allowing for tourists to have a sense of the tropical feel of Costa Rica, and it's not like there's a group of people coming together and saying, "Hey, we have to do this," but I think it's just everyone understands that's what it's like to live here. It's a tropical destination, therefore everyone tries to maintain that tropical feel to their style. Yeah.
And perhaps to run out the podcast, I wanted to ask you about like any up and coming trends or particularly innovative developments that you want to highlight.
Well, I definitely think where we are right now in Las Ventanas. I am a little biased because we own here, but this community is one that is showing a lot of promise in terms of the homes that are being built here. They're pushing the threshold. The newer ocean view homes are just spectacular. The different builders inside of this community with the designs that they're doing. A lot of clients that I've brought here are finding the convenience of having the ocean view, yet the access to one of our best surf breaks in the area here in Playa Grande. But then, outside of this community, I think there are a lot of new product that's coming to the market. I think we're still in a really great season for our area. I've been here long enough to see the different cycles, and there's definitely something different about this one. I know that as always, real estate is cyclical and we do have our recessions, but it seems that even though things might slow down, there's still enough sound investment to see that new developments that are coming are being well done. This is a perfect example of that. It's taken them a while, but you see the quality of their infrastructure, the quality of their build, and as it's maturing, it kind of goes every couple of years, it goes to the next level, and you're seeing the nicer homes, the nicer designs coming in. So outside of that, I mean, obviously we have our main projects that as a company we're always very involved with, which is like Hacienda-style, Reserva Conchal, Las Catalinas. I personally have Ave Moana and Avellanas, which is a very great community in its tropical design as well, because those homes are all modern tropical and, walking distance to Lola's. So all of these projects are very promising, very exciting. I think we're in a good season for our area, and I believe that the country is just gaining more and more popularity as I, call out all of my new clients and people that reach out to us. I come to realize that people are just discovering the country. Sometimes we think from our perspective that Costa Rica is, everyone should know about it, but when you hear that no one has ever come or someone told them about it for the first time, I'm seeing that's happening more consistently, which means that there's a whole new group of people that are discovering the country, which is a great sign for everything that's to come.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time, Alex.
Thank you, Alonso.
And if you enjoyed the conversation, you can follow us on social media at Tu Costa Rica Real Estate and follow all our previous podcasts on your favorite streaming platform at Tu Costa Rica Real Talk.